Home, sweet home. Perhaps we can make our home, Winsted, great again. Brian O'Haron speaking. Last week, I presented to you a platform that I thought all parties in town, whether Republican, Democrat, Independent, or even the large 50% unaffiliated voter group, should run on in the next election in November. I feel strongly about this. I'm going to type up the platform, spread it around as widely as I can over the next few months to try to get everybody in town to understand the implications of the way we are running the town of Winchester, city of Winsted, and have been for maybe the last 15 years or so, when the liberal Democrats and some of the liberal Republicans have taken over our town. They haven't grown the grand list at all, very, very slightly. And now we have a very, very good example of what happens when you pack the POCD and the planning and zoning regulations with various one-sided views of how the town should be in the future. We have the Health and Wellness Center that wants to move in downtown, at least part of their center, maybe all of it. They got a grant from the federal government for a year or so, $1 million. The people up at the local hospital would like them to spend the money up there renovating the 1902 building that is not the best state right now, and they want to move downtown so they can better serve the people who have a need. It all went to the planning and zoning group, and last week they turned it down because they said they wanted to have more business-like occupants that paid taxes and supplied business services to the town. Store, co-op, anything like that that would make the downtown a little more friendly to the residents of the town and city. It looked to me, I attended the meeting, took a lot of pictures, and I got a copy of the voice-only recording of the meeting. When I edited out all the laughs and coughing and sneezing and passing of the microphone around, and it was about 2 hours long. So I broke it up into 3 pieces, and I played it on my Financial Winsted program. It's on Thursday evenings, 7:30. Charterhouse put it up on YouTube so I can send it out to people all over the world that don't reside here or on business trips or vacations anywhere. they can see it and listen to it in this case. Now, the people in town, headed by a few of the Nader family and others, want to start a co-op to take the place of John Dewan's Super Saver on Main Street because he wants to retire and close his business unless he can sell it to somebody else. He's been trying for many years to do that. Hasn't been able to do it. Well, at least a couple of years anyway. He's trying to sell it to anybody who would be interested. And he did it proactively. He hired a realtor. He was out there looking around. And the Health and Wellness Center responded because they have the $1 million grant from the federal government that I mentioned. That may expire in a year or so, so they're probably going to have to go in there and find another place around town or get the grant extended. Now, the other thing that happened recently, and I kind of predicted this a few years back, the Bank of America has announced that it's closing. We all got letters in the mail. In the town, they do a lot of banking with the Bank of America, so they're going to have to move out. But they're going to merge with the Torrington Bank, so anybody up here who deals with them will have to deal with the Torrington Bank. Now, I've been here since 2002 when I retired, although we've had our home here, and we've been adding to it since 1973. And when I came here, the bank I was dealing with had changed to the Bank of America, and I began dealing with them. And over time, they kept trying to push my wife and I onto the internet. Deal on the internet. Don't come to the bank. Deal through the internet. We don't want to deal with major financial matters over the internet. It's not good to do that unless you have excellent protection. But it's still a risk, as you know from all the Hillary Clinton internet experiences. So I told some of the people down at work there, including the manager, that it was just a matter of time before they all lost their jobs. Because if you take, for example, as I mentioned on the other program, 25 banks of America, and you merge them with 25 other banks of America, then you don't need the two managers anymore. You don't need the building anymore. You don't need the taxes anymore. You don't need the cost of running the business anymore, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You don't need the tellers anymore. And that's happening everywhere now because of the internet, as I keep mentioning to you on my programs. The other interesting thing that's happening, on the 25th of April, there's a National Hiring Day. And I was down at the restaurant. They said they were going to participate in the hiring day because, as I was told by one person, McDonald's and the Walmart stores are the biggest hirers in America. And slowly, they will be also losing business to people who buy and have things delivered on the internet. Joyce and I went down to a restaurant on the top of East Main Street in Torrington the other night, and I picked up a copy of a sign that says, home delivery to businesses. That's the way things are moving now. Less people are going into these businesses, local businesses. They're having things delivered to their home. They're working over the internet. If we don't get somebody into the Bank of America, we could lose about $24,000 in advantageous revenue to the town if, for example, a 501(c) organization moves in there. And even if the Health and Wellness Center moves into John Dewan's Super Saver, that could cost us about $23,000 a year in advantageous tax revenue because they probably won't be paying any taxes on whatever building they take. So there's a lot of interesting things happening in our town. And the reason I dwell on this tonight is because we really have to pay attention during this next election in November, as I keep repeating and repeating and repeating, and we have to get people to step up and run for office. The Republican Party has to get good, business balanced, financially astute people. The Democratic Party has to get financially astute, business-oriented people and business experienced people. And as many people from the unaffiliated party, which is 50% of the voters, need to run for office as have business experience and are practically astute and can help our town grow the grand list. Grow the grand list, grow the grand list, and attract businesses to the town. Now, tonight I want to mention some of the ways. Everybody always says to me, why do you think we can attract business to our town? Nobody wants to come to our town. That's the biggest answer I get all over town. Nobody wants to put a business in our town. Taxes are too high. People don't shop here. They go to Torrington and over towards Hartford to shop. Who would want to come to our town? Well, there's a lot of people who want to come to our town because relatively it is cheaper than other towns with higher tax rates and more expensive needs. The kind of business that will come to our town are people that can work over the internet worldwide. They can manage databases for people around the world. They can do all kinds of things on the computer, operating from Winsted, delivering things worldwide by air and by various package delivering companies. They can have websites that people can buy things on from around the world. So they have to learn to make use of the new computer-driven economy. They have to come here, or they can come here, and they can set up businesses that use the computer throughout the world. I can't name you all these businesses I did mention: managing databases, making products that are clean and for the environment, delivering them around the world through various computer techniques and various delivering practices, whether it be United States Post Office or any of the package delivering companies. They're growing in their business. Those businesses are growing, maybe not the post office so much. People who deliver packages, people who operate on computers. There are a few already in our town. They're quiet, you don't even know who they are, but they're pretty successful and pretty helpful. And if they have a building or a home or anything like that, they do pay taxes. And a lot of them pay advantageous taxes. Now, the kind of business we have here now, most of them are being hurt by the internet. Most of them are being hurt. People are doing business in a different way now. Some are being helped. So we need to get the kind of businesses that can live in this environment and that of the future. The kind of businesses that deal with people all over the world via the internet, using computers, are clean businesses, don't pollute the environment. That can happen. But in order for it to happen, we need to do a few things a little differently than we're doing now. We need to go back to our old way of having strong management in the town that is business-oriented and does want to grow the grand list. And as I mentioned last week, we need to be able to produce a balanced plan of conservation and development and a balanced set of planning and zoning regulations that will be fair and attract the kind of businesses and organizations that we want to have to help us grow this grand list and balanced the needs of the town with the amount of revenue that we need to do so. That's not easy, because in order to do that, you have to remove the entrenched, extreme liberal management that you have on the Finance Board, the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Education. You need to balance all this. And most of all, you got to get a better mayor. Instead of getting one of the worst mayors, you need to get one of the best mayors. A good mayor is very important in our form of government. A good, well-balanced finance board is also important, and we need people on the finance board that know something about finance. Now, if you had a problem with your health and you came to me for advice and I said, well, why don't you go to a shoemaker instead of a doctor? You'd think I was crazy. If I said, why don't you go to a bus driver instead of a doctor? You'd think I was crazy. If I said, why don't you go to a school teacher instead of a doctor? You'd think I was crazy. What you need to do is, you need to get people in there who understand how to manage money, how to earn money, how to spend money, and how to balance the money that you're paying in your taxes and others are paying in their taxes with the needs of the town and the people in the town, not just a small percentage. Now, they keep saying on television, at meetings, I heard it said by the Planning and Zoning Commission last week, and I hear it said by the mayor all the time, probably every week, every 2 weeks when they have a meeting, that the lake pays a big percentage of the taxes. Well, the reason the lake pays a big percent of the taxes is because they don't allow any development in their backyard, the town. Same with the town of Winchester. They don't want any development in their backyard. That's the reason some of them are on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and Board of Education. They don't want any development in their backyards. And if they don't have any development in their backyards, how can the town grow its grand list in a positive manner, advantageous manner? Some would say profitable manner if they were business orientated. So it's very, very important for you to understand this and pass the word around to everybody in town that you can. I distribute things as widely as I can. A lot of people pass the word. A lot of people talk to everybody. They spread the word, as Donald Trump would do. They think big, as Donald Trump is trying to do. But they have the same problems that Donald Trump has. Our Democratic Party is split into at least 3 groups: liberal, conservative, and middle-of-the-roaders. Our Republican Party is split in 3 pieces: conservative, liberal, and middle-of-the-roaders. And usually, one extreme or the other takes over these parties. And right now, the liberals are in charge, from my point of view, of both parties. Or as I would like to see it be, balanced middle-of-the-roaders, or a balance between conservative and liberal, that kind of thing. Now, if people around the world see how we are treating the super saver management and owner after 37 years in our town, 34 of which he never missed a payroll, and he hired a lot of young people, high school, college people, and people out of school over the years, never missed a payroll. That isn't easy to do, as I said in other programs. If people see that, and I've already talked to many people from around America and some from overseas, and I said, why don't you come to our town and open a business? And they said, no, we don't think so, Brian. We see the way you're treating John Dewan, who did a lot for the town over the years, is a wonderful person. We see how you're treating him. You won't let him sell his business to the Health and Wellness Group from Torrington. They're up on Spencer Street in the 1902 hospital that needs a lot of upgrading. Now, I've been around for a while here, since 2002, full time. Before that, I didn't pay much attention. I'd pay my taxes and give my dues to the Watershed Association that I don't belong to anymore for very good reasons. But I didn't pay much attention because I was out running around the world trying to make enough money to be able to raise my family, help other members of my family, and also other people in need. But when I came back, I noticed that the Torrington Hospital wanted to leave our hospital. I guess they had a problem around 1990 that I'm not familiar with the hospital. When I came back and I was on the EDC, the Torrington wanted to leave that Spencer Street location for about 20 good reasons. They produced a list of those reasons, and I got the list from them at the time, gave it to the EDC. They wanted continuous operation. They couldn't get it at the hospital. At the time, they wanted to land the helicopter there. They couldn't do it at the hospital. There were all kinds of reasons why they wanted to leave and go down on Route 44 near Barkhamsted and have a one-floor, brand-new, modern building that they were trying to get, either they were trying to or they had a grant from the government, state, I guess, to do. Well, that grant fell through eventually, so that never happened. But there were people fighting that. The other group that's kind of fighting growth in the town are the Nader supporters, and with the help perhaps of some of the Nader raiders. I don't know if they call them that anymore, but some of their loyal liberal followers. There's only certain types of things they want to see in our town. And they have a strong voice, supported a bit by the Shafik Nader Trust, and he's probably rolling over in his grave because he was trying to help grow the town, help benefit the town. And in their own way, they're trying to do it too. But since none of them really understand business, they've never probably ever run a business, they have run charitable contribution trusts. They don't really understand what's necessary here. And I do have my differences with the way they look at our town. I've said that on many of my programs already, no sense repeating all that. Well, anyway, the hospital people and people who have been associated with the hospital or on their board and have been on their board would rather have the Health and Wellness Center spend their money there, $1 million that they're going to get from the federal government, than downtown. They're still fighting to keep that hospital alive. But over the years, I've also heard rumors that the veterans would like to move out of that hospital as well, probably for good reason, probably downtown somewhere. The rumor I heard, it's just a rumor, was perhaps to buy Bob Moore's sports place down Vol Route 8 near the corner of Route 44 and Route 8. Go down there. That may still happen sooner or later. And now you got the Health and Wellness wants to move out of that hospital. All this is sending a message to that hospital. The message isn't good. Maybe they should get some investors. Maybe they should get people to pitch in to help the hospital solve its problems. If they did that, maybe then people wouldn't want to move out, go downtown. Now, the Health and Wellness people say they have a lot of good reasons. They've given all kinds of papers to planning and zoning of what the reasons why they want to move downtown. But as usual, other people that have never run a business, they're either ex-school teachers, most of them are artists and things like that, that have never really run successful businesses. I even know a few of them are in there that said they run a business, and people say, yeah, but they can't make a very big success out of it. We don't see how Mr. XYZ makes any money. Poor guy in his business, that kind of thing. But they think they know more about it than people who have run businesses, and they try to tell them how to run their business, who they should sell their business to, who they should sell their property to, They're very vocal, and they take the time to express their views. They're not bashful. While all the other people aren't paying any attention at all. They're too busy running their life, trying to get their kids to good schools, trying to get through schools, trying to pay their taxes, trying to help their own family, their mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers. So they don't pay much attention to local politics. You must be crazy if you're involved in any politics. I don't look at it that way myself. I'm retired. I've got the time I can spend. I don't have any source of income here. So I can try to help people that want to do the right thing for the town. And that's what I'm trying to do. Now, in a town where people are victimized for trying to do good, their family is badgered, their children are badgered. I asked one person why he got out of the local political helping business. And he said, well, because my children asked me to. My children asked me to. He wanted to have a lower profile. He wanted to protect his wife and children and relatives, and grandmother and grandfather, and uncles and aunts from ridicule or from losing any business because of the involvement in the town politics. So it's tough. It's a catch-22. You're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. So people don't want to get involved. People don't want to be part of this mess we've got in our town. Now you'll hear the people that are in power now, because it's an election year and they say it anyway, you go to them and tell them you're really sick and you got cancer and all that kind of thing. And they'll tell you, oh, everything is wonderful. Yeah, I see you've polished your shoes this morning. I see you've got a haircut, combed your hair. They'll tell you all kinds of things like that. They'll tell you all things they're doing are wonderful and they're really turning this town around. So now what we need a group of you people that are residents in town, are young enough, experienced enough, motivated enough to get in here and run for office, have the time, of course, to run for office and help straighten out this town. If you have business experience, or you can listen to people who will advise you that do have business experience and know how to run a business and have some experience managing money in a positive way so that they can help you, once you're in office, try to balance the budget. Try to grow the revenue. You have to earn money before you spend money. Not spend money, then run for a grant or try to get donations, whatever, before you raise the money. Got to get it ahead of the game and stay ahead of the game. Now, for many reasons, they've managed to grow the fund balance, but they're starting now to spend that in this current budget, and they're not growing the grand list enough to keep that fund balance up without a bond offer or raising your taxes. Probably even have later another supplemental tax that you won't even get the vote on, but they can use to restore a bit of their fund balance and pay some of their bills and expenses. We need to come to grips with the school system. 2 superintendents, 2 of this, 2 of that, 3 of this, 3 of that. Numbers of children are going down. More and more people are going to be getting educated online, homeschooled, sent to other private schools where they can ask children to behave and ask their mothers and fathers to discipline them, try to keep semblance of order in their schools. The more money you take from the government, the more control you lose on how you can run your own school system. So a lot of people are saying, okay, we'll send them elsewhere. All right, I'm trying to point out on this program how important it is for you people in town to step up, get this government strengthened, get it balanced, normal distribution curve, people from the middle, maybe one from the left, one from the right, but the rest should be more towards the center with experience. Experience running businesses, experience in managing money, experience in helping others to balance our budget, grow our grand list. And it'll take, again, 15 to 20 years because some of our commissions and committees don't get elected every 2 years, or people don't get reappointed every 2 years. Some of them can stay on there for 5 years. And since they've already packed some of these committees, since they've already packed the POCD, the planning and zoning regulations with their philosophy, it's going to be very, very, very difficult to change it, if practical at all. Now, it will change eventually. It'll change when the town crashes, when people can't pay their taxes anymore, and they continue to vote with their feet and leave the town. And as we continue to let our houses and homes and businesses become dilapidated because the people have to pay the taxes rather than invest the money in their properties. It's good to clean up blight. Nobody would argue with it. But eventually, people won't have the money to upgrade their old homes, their old houses, their old businesses, because they're paying more taxes than they can afford, and their businesses and schools, libraries, and all are reducing in activity because of the internet that is growing strongly and will dominate over time. Almost everything is going to happen because of the internet, and almost everything will be affected by the internet. The internet has many, many, many good points. You see kids on the internet all the time now doing a lot of good things, and perhaps some things they shouldn't be involved in. And you see families using the internet more and more to order things to be delivered to their homes rather than go to stores, to do banking online rather than to go to banks, to do entertainment online rather than to go to movie theaters, and things like that. More and more and more things in our town, our state, will be affected by the people that continuously push others to go online, to do things online, to do things via the internet, save money on gas, save money on automobiles, save money on repairs to your automobiles, etc., by doing more and more online. Even before I retired, the companies I was working for always tried to encourage people to work from home. Why would they want them to work from home? Very easy. They could do it on the internet. That saves the company an office, taxes on their offices, repairs to their buildings, etc., etc., etc. And you see it happening right now in Winsted. You'll see it happen more and more and more if you're a student, if you're paying attention. It's happening to John Dewan's business. It's after the Bank of America's business. It'll happen to more and more businesses as they encourage people to go and use their online delivery services for their homes and businesses and things like that. So open your eyes. Listen to people who know what they're talking about. I went into the Bank of America recently when I found out they were closing, and I said, hey, sorry to come in the bank. I know you don't want me here. You don't want anybody in the bank. You want them to all work online. And now, look it, you're closing down. And one of the people who works in the bank said to me, Brian, you predicted this years ago. You told us what would happen if we continue to push people to go on. You told us that that our jobs may be in jeopardy. And look, we're closing our bank now, as you said we would be doing someday. So I asked the person if he or she had another job. And they said, no, we haven't yet found out where we will be going. Now, if people are going to go to the other bank, they might have to move town. They might have to move to Torrington or wherever the bank is. Sooner or later, the Torrington Bank will merge with the Hartford banks, and sooner or later, the Hartford banks will move with the New York banks, and sooner or later, there won't be any banks that you can walk into at all unless you're going to do certain types of business where you're required to go once, make the deal, and then do the rest online. John Dwan's business terribly affected by the other businesses and the internet. They can buy in bulk, they can buy in quantity. Walmart's being affected by one of the biggest employers in the country. And they're affected by and a lot of these biggest employers in the countries, like McDonald's and Walmart, they hire entry-level people and only let them work so many hours so they don't have to pay their benefits, so they don't have to increase the minimum budget requirement. So this is tricky. Very tricky. That's why we need you people that are capable, that are young enough, that have the energy, that have the time, that have the experience to run for office here in our town in the next election and try to help make Winsted great again. Make Winsted great again. Help your family, help your relatives, help your children, help your neighbors, help your friends, help everybody in your attempt to make Winsted great again. Now, a lot of people I ask if they want to run for office, they say, what's in it for me? I'll spend less time with my family. I'll spend less time at my job. It'll affect me in more ways than you can imagine. What's in it for me? Well, I can understand that, because there's not a lot in it for people who spend 10, 20, 15, whatever number of years trying to help the town to see it spiral more and more downward. They could have been doing something else with their life for all those years. They could be doing something more with their life right now. And that's kind of what they want to do. So again, we sort of have a catch-22 here, because the people who do run have hidden agendas. They want to do the things that they want to do. And they're in a vast minority, but they do get involved, so they get their way. Others don't get involved, and so they don't get their way. So you have very few people now that are running for office, getting elected. You have a mayor who's been in office for 12 years, and in that 12 years we've done nothing but get worse. Now, she'll tell you that we're improving, we're really doing well. I showed you a clip last week. Everything's wonderful, because this is an election year and she'd like to get in again. For whatever reason, she wants to be involved in local politics. Now, she says it's because she wants to help the lake, because her father always told her she should help the lake, blah, blah, blah. But she's not helping the lake. Most of the people that are running her crowd have done a lot to help spoil the lake in more ways than one. Very hypocritical, very hypocritical. But if we want to balance the taxpayers throughout the town, we need to get people in that will help us grow the grand list, that'll help us update the POCD and balance it, that'll help us update the regulations and balance them, and that's going to take 10 to 20 years. It isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to help us get good businessmen that want to come to our town, the good kind of businesses that we can support and do need. We need to do that. And it's one thing to hire salesmen, which I agree with, to go out and try to sell people on coming to our town. But when they come to our town and see what we're doing with the present business owners and how bad we treat them, any business person will tell you when you go in for a permit in this town, it's tough. It's tough. Now, I don't blame it on the people in the town. It's not their problem. There's so many state rules and regulations. As you know, Donald Trump says with the business leaders in the country, when he had a meeting with them, they told him that we got 75% too much regulation in our country. We're at the highest taxes in the world right now. He wants to cut those. He wants to cut the number of regulations way, 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 way down, as do the business owners, so they can give more people jobs, benefits, and be more competitive with people from outside the country. We need to do the same thing here. We need to reduce the number of our regulations and the difficulty of getting businesses in and out of town. When you get those regulations cut, balanced, we need to get the taxes to be more fairly proportioned to our revenue coming in. We need to work hard on all that kind of stuff. Now, there's a lot happening with planning and zoning now. People are being exposed for their thoughts by the Health and Wellness Center lawyers. So over the next few months to a year, there'll be a lot of interesting information coming out in the open once it gets out of executive session and becomes public. Should Health and Wellness continue their quest to purchase John Dewan's Super Saver property and move at least part of their existing facility downtown? So there'll be a lot of that. There's already a lot coming out. There's a letter that was sent to Planning and Zoning by their lawyers. It's public information. It's been in all the newspapers. The deliberations will most likely be done in executive session where no reporters are there and they can't really talk about what they discuss in those meetings. I don't know what'll come from the health and wellness lawyers. And while all that's happening, the Bank of America will be closing, and some of the new non-tax paying businesses, or business is a bad word, non-tax paying buildings going up around town. There's a new part of the college going up. They won't pay taxes. There's a Wall of America adding 2 floors. They don't pay taxes. There's the Tort Museum, 5013C or whatever they call it. They don't pay any taxes. None of them bring many feet on the street to town. The college building will help a lot. They're beginning training veterinary students there. But most of the people who go to the college, and they go a couple days a week and then they go home. They don't really spend a lot of money in town. They don't really stay in town very long. Some do, of course. Some rent apartments or rooms above the stores and things like that, but not enough to make a big difference. Now, the college is good. No argument there. Maybe the Wall of America will attract some people. Maybe the Tort Museum will. So far, I don't see much action, but maybe that'll do something. Maybe that'll do something. But we don't know, and I wouldn't plan on it. Oh, let's get some people to run. Encourage anybody you know is capable. Try to talk them into it. You might make an enemy for life if they do run and find out what they got themselves into. But we have to take that gamble if we want to make Winsted great again. I do most of the stuff for the Wellness Center and John Dewan Super Saver on my Financial Winsted program on Thursday nights, repeated once on the weekend. And on Make Winsted Great Again, I try to talk more about how we can get better people to run our government in the next election in November. How can we get people that are more qualified change out these people, especially the mayor who's been in for 12 years one way or another, in one position or another, mayor a couple times. And it is especially important, along with voting out the mayor, who was a long-time teacher and rec director in the school systems around this area. It's important to get somebody in there that is more objective, more financially qualified, has the interests of everybody in the town at heart. And it is especially important not to re-elect somebody who can't vote on 65% of the budget each year, or even sit in on the discussions when their amounts are being discussed, because he's high up in the Gilbert Trust and really has to recuse himself on anything to do with the school systems. Good night. There are probably two of the existing finance board members from the Republican Party and one from the Democratic Party that could possibly be reelected again unless they do something crazy between now and the election time, and if they run for office again. The rest of them should be voted out, and we should get good people in there who have business experience, like before the 1960s, when businessmen ran the town. Name recognition was a minor influence. And we got through the flood, and then we began to proceed forward, rebuilding the town until the liberals took over, stopped development in their backyard. We had the theft of a lot of money, and we had the biggest recession since the Great Depression a while back. We're clawing our way back, there's no doubt about that. But we're trying to get ahead. We don't just want to claw our way back. We want to do things to help the town. Now, I'm going to give you some examples of things that were told to me over the last couple days that are kind of interesting. One person who's probably about 30 years old, married, and has a house up in Norfolk, works down here in Winsted, told me that he's never been in a bank, does everything online with his telephone and the apps and all that kind of thing. That's very interesting. Another person told me that insurance companies are going to have the same problem as the banks. Sooner or later, everybody will be doing everything online. They won't need a building. They won't need any employees. They'll need a minimal amount of employees, of course. And then if robots take over, they'll even need less of that. I talked to another person who agreed with me that the co-op up in Great Barrington is very expensive, and would hope that the one we have here would be much less expensive. I explained to her the one we have here will probably be like the farmer's market. Get very few people on a summer day there and a weekend, but it's helpful to those who can use it. But that's not the answer to the maiden's prayer. Another person told me, he owns a business, part of a business. He told me that he'd like to see a business go into John Dewan's property on Main Street. I didn't ask him if he would like to purchase the building from John Dewan and move his business there with his partners, or perhaps buy it himself and start another business there. But we know that it's tough to build businesses in downtown, anywhere right now, because everybody gets in their cars and heads up the road to the closest Walmart, Big Y, Stop and Shop, or even the farthest Stop and Shop if they think they can get other things in the area while they're down there. Some people have told me they go down there to Torrington to buy everything on a Saturday. Their pharmaceuticals, their food, and any other shopping they have to do. They go down to Torrington to do that, while other ones head out to Hartford. They don't go all the way to Hartford. Hartford Center is kind of run down now. I worked at G. Fox for 1 year after I got out of high school before I went to college, and it was beautiful there then. Not so now. Not so now. But people do go halfway. They stop at Best Buy, and they stop at a lot of places, perfume shops and things like that. Who knows how long that'll last, because the internet is taking over all that business, and the internet plays no favorites, as you are beginning to find out. Now remember, I was the second president of Internet Systems Corporation many years ago. We sold the company after we raised some money, and we ran it for a while. So I know quite a bit about the internet. I've told you that many times, but I'll keep repeating myself because different people watch the program from time to time. The internet is strong. Anybody anywhere in the world can write an app and make millions of dollars by putting it on the internet, selling it at the app store, selling it to a major corporation. Everybody under the age of 60, and maybe even some of those, have cell phones that are just like a computer. You can get anywhere and anything at any time by using the cell phone that you carry with you in your pocket. We see that all the time everywhere we go. I talked to one bank that did tell me that for the next 20 years they will continue to have checks and walk-in business and tellers and things like that. But as soon as the generation of the older people dies off, they won't need that anymore. Everybody will be computer literate. Everybody will be on their phones doing things. Everybody will be purchasing things over the internet, having them delivered to their house. So those kind of businesses will grow. The ones who deliver things, as I said earlier. The other businesses, that's another story. A lot of the service businesses everywhere will disappear. There will be no jobs for those kind of people unless they're in the medical field or they're in various yard cleanup businesses. There's all kinds of people like that. More and more of those kind of companies, landscaping companies, are moving into Winsted now, and they work all over the area. They can work up in Litchfield, Norfolk, Canaan, down towards Hartford, out towards anywhere from here. It's rather inexpensive to park their trucks and their vehicles here. Contact everybody. Most of the people I know that are any kind of a building business do most of their business up in the rich parts of Canaan, up by Wassaic, in that area where it's booming right now. Well, that's it for today. I'll see you again next week. I hope I have some more exciting news to tell you. Wake up. Help Bob Geiger out, the town manager. Get some good people elected in November. Please, help Bob. Home, sweet home. Perhaps we can make our home, Winsted, great again. Think big. Spread the word. And let's make Winsted great again. In this very important election year, vote for experienced business candidates for all boards and commissions in November. Thank you in advance.